Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today we're going to talk about what is one of the most popular baits on the market, and that is a vibrating jig like this chatterbait right here. And we all know how good it can be at catching fish, but I got to tell you, there are some mistakes that some anglers make that are drastically limiting the number of bites that they're going to get. So I want to share with you some of the different things that I think anglers do that if they changed, they'd have a lot more success with this. Today's video is brought to you by the Deep Dive app, which will help you select the best fishing places in the lake with features like the lake level, the current flow, the top baits tool, which will help you select the best baits for certain locations throughout the lake. Whether that's a clear water, stained water, dirty water, it'll choose the best bait for that location, provide you with all the information like what structure, what retrieve, different reel, all of the information that you need to catch the fish. This is in the app. The cool part about this app, though, is it's not just based on areas, it does provide you with specific tournament winning data that has been collected to help you figure out your best choices for baits and locations for whatever region of the lake it is that you want to fish. On top of that, not only does the app provide you with best locations, it gives you water clarity as well. So maybe you're on a lake like Lake Eufaula, where there is a bunch of different water clarity located throughout the entire lake. This will help you identify the clearest portions as well as the dirtiest portions of the lake. Plus, the Deep Dive app has now added the wind effect map, which is going to take all of the different wind conditions for the past couple of days and show you what banks on the lake are being hit the hardest. They also have inflow points that show you different places throughout the lake where your water is being flushed into the lake through different ditches and creeks and rivers, providing you with high percentage places to fish and letting you know what parts of the lake are going to be the best areas after a rain. Check out the Deep Dive app to help you become a better angler. So let's jump right into some of these different mistakes that anglers make. The first thing I want to point out is the trailer. The trailer is one of the most critical things that an angler can choose to help or hurt the action of your chatterbait. Now, in this case, I really like to go with something that is much more straight-tailed, like this Berkeley Power Stinger. It's just something that will not prohibit the bait from having some erratic motion. So generally speaking, some of the baits that I think anglers are choosing as a trailer that are hurting are boot tail swim baits or some cross style baits that have really drastic flapping motion. In both of those cases, the boot tail and those flappers on the craws will generally create more drag in the water. And what that does is it keeps the bait running more in line with itself versus having erratic darting motion. So if you can enhance the bait by giving the bait a trailer that allows that bait to move freely without creating drag in the water, you're going to generate more bites from fish that are not active. So that's the number one mistake that I see a lot of people doing. If you like using a boot tail or you like using some of those craws that have big flapper motion and it's working for you, that's great. Stick with it. But at the same time, give it a try. That's all I'm saying. You'll see how much more fluid your bait looks in the water in terms of the movement and that crazy hunting erratic motion that generates strikes for you. So that's the number one thing. The second thing isn't necessarily the bait, it's the rod selection. Now, in my opinion, if you're fishing a vibrating jig like this, you want a rod that's a longer action rod that has a stiff lower backbone, but a really soft tip. Generally, I like to go with some of your blended action rods, not a straight graphite rod. And really, what that does is it allows you to have the power in the lower end of that rod to rip the bait free from some grass and some of the debris that you might be getting the bait hung up in. But at the same time, it's a soft enough tip that when that fish comes up to it and sucks it in, that soft tip allows the bait to pull into the fish's mouth easily. It's often overlooked by a lot of anglers. In this case, you're giving up some of the sensitivity of, say, a graphite rod, a fast or extra fast action rod, for some of that softness. So you do lose a little bit of feel, but at the same time, you're going to hook up with more fish. So that's something you want to keep in mind. If you're throwing it on an extra fast action rod, you're probably hurting yourself in the number of fish that you're catching. Big, big mistake in my opinion. Now, another tip that I would recommend has to do with the skirt. So when you buy a vibrating jig from the stores, generally speaking, they have full skirts on them. I like to take my scissors and remove a lot of that secondary layer of skirt material. And that's for two reasons. One, I've reduced some of the drag in the water. So again, this helps that bait hunt in action. And then the second thing is, depending on the trailers that you choose, if they're a little shorter, those skirt materials could actually catch up with the trailer and hinder some of the action that your trailer is doing for the bait. So I like to trim some of it from underneath. And I also, if I need to, will trim the skirt up to make it shorter. Those are two things that you can do to your skirt that will really enhance the action of the bait. And then the last thing, and this is potentially the most important thing to generating reactions from fish, is to make sure that your vibrating jig is getting caught in some form of cover, or at the very least is deflecting off cover. So if you're fishing around grass, get it hung up in the grass so you can rip it out, create an explosion where grass chunks go flying. That generates interest from the fish and it gets them to react to it. If you're fishing around pad stems, clink it off the pad stems. If you're fishing around bulrushes, make sure you make contact with the bulrushes. If you're fishing around docks or wood, if you can without getting hung up, make sure you make some contact, because that contact will not only create interest from the fish, but it creates a deflection of the bait. And it's that deflection that allows the fish to think that the vibrating jig is getting away from them, and that generates them into striking. These are four simple things that you can do to help you generate more bites. And at the same time, if you're not doing them, you're probably costing yourself some of those bites when you're out on the water. So they're mistakes, in my opinion, that anglers are making. Let me know if you enjoy this type of video. If you do, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out for tomorrow for you.